This is the beginning of the end of their nightmare and the nightmare that their families have experienced. I'm also not going to get into any of the details about what we're doing or engaged on because I don't want to jeopardize the completion of this process and the return home of our fellow citizens. In any respect, Iran will not be receiving any sanctions relief.
Secretary of State Antony Blinken, U.S. and Iranian officials say Tehran has transferred 5 Iranian Americans from prison to house arrest. President Biden has agreed to release a handful of Iranian nationals serving prison sentences for violating sanctions on Iran. The New York Times is reporting the U.S. will also unfreeze nearly $6 billion of Iranian assets in South Korea. That has many people upset. One of them, former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. Mr. Secretary, thanks for joining us.
Brett, it's great to be with you this evening.
You heard the person who took over the job that you left, what he said about this deal. What's the problem with it?
Well, first, it is always good to get Americans at home, and for those families, I couldn't be happier. But his statement that there's no sanctions to be relieved just is going to prove untrue if the New York Times reporting is correct. That $7 billion or $6 billion that is held by the South Koreans today, it was there when I was there too. The Iranians wanted that money, and now they're going to get it. And the sanctions that we had imposed, the rules we had placed on the South Koreans saying you can't give the Iranians back their money, sounds like they're going to relieve them. And the upshot is this. We're now at about $1 billion a hostage. That market price will be recognized by the Russians, by the North Koreans who hold an American who came across the border. And the chance that the Iranians will take further American hostages only increases as a result of this, Brett. And this money that goes to Iran, they say it's going only for humanitarian assistance. You know this, Brett. They have a budget. They can either spend it on medicine and food for their people, or they can use it to arm Hezbollah and build their nuclear program. And now they don't have to spend it on medicine and food. They can use it to put American lives at risk. And that's just indecent, Brett.
One of those lives is yours. Iranian operative plotting assassination of John Bolton also targeted Mike Pompeo. This is from August 2022. Justice Department announcing charges against this guy, a member of Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, allegedly using encrypted messaging apps to offer $300,000 to hire somebody to murder Bolton and allegedly you. First of all, are you still worried about that? Are you still concerned about it?
Well, the United States is still concerned about it. The Iranians haven't given up. They make pretty clear every time a senior IRGC or Iranian official talks about what their plans are. Their plans are still to come after me and President Trump and others who are former senior American officials. But it's not just me. They've come after those who didn't serve in government here inside the United States. Their efforts to arm against Israel, our ally and partner in the region, are still there, and they're still committing terror, building out the Houthi forces in Yemen and the Hezbollah soldiers in northern Israel. Now, this money we're going to give them, $6 billion, is a lot of money for Iran. This will balance their budget, Brett. They're feeling flush tonight. And the fact that we're getting these Americans home is fantastic, but the risk to every other American is substantial.
I want to play a soundbite for you. We've been talking, you and I, for many years about Iran. Back when you were in the House, on the House Intelligence Committee, we did a special on Iran. This is part of that. Has the support for Hezbollah or Hamas dropped off at all?
Not at all.
Modified?
None. If anything, greater.
The seizure of Americans, has that changed at all since the Iran nuclear deal?
It has not. We paid $1.7 billion in ransom, and they have taken 3 Americans since that time.
Now, since that time, you were hired as CIA director, then Secretary of State. The MO for Iran, in your eyes, has never changed.
No change. I look a little bit older than I did in that video, Brett, but the Iranians haven't changed a bit.
I'm in a different weight class.
Their efforts to build out their regime's terror program around the world and threaten Americans hasn't changed one iota. When I was in office, when I was Secretary of State, we had denied them wealth. They were down to just a little bit of money, Brett. We had put the harshest sanctions in the history of the world in place against the Iranian regime. We had helped the Iranian people find a foothold. The Biden administration's come in and upended all of that. And the Iranians will now be flush and their terror campaign more successful.
You know, you decided not to run for president. We're getting ready for this debate in Milwaukee. Foreign policy will be a part of the questions, obviously, and there are a lot of questions to ask. Have you definitively decided that you're not going to support the former president?
No, I've said pretty clearly I'm going to support the Republican nominee against this president for the reasons we were just talking about, the Iran policy, their failed efforts to protect Americans when they withdrew from Afghanistan. No, another Biden administration would be tragic. I'll support whoever it is from the Republican Party that's running against President Biden.
And do you have a question, suggestion?
Too many, Brett.
Too many.
By the way, you were talking a little bit earlier about this issue with Hunter Biden. This really isn't about Hunter. This is really about President Biden himself. It looks to me like he was on phone calls talking about business while he was in office, enriching his own family. There's a lot of questions to be answered there, and I hope the moderator, whoever that might be, Brett, will get a chance to ask those.
Well, I'll talk to that person. We'll see what we can do. Mr. Secretary, thanks so much.